Hello, everyone. Welcome to Table and Plate Project Delta podcast. I'm here with my third invitee conversationalist to talk about food and culture in the Mississippi Delta. So welcome, Mrs. Cassandra Atley.
Hello.
Thank you, Cassandra, for joining us.
Sure.
So, as I told you before we began, we'll have a conversation about food and culture. And I want you to choose however you want to present and answer the questions I begin to ask you. So first of all, why do you eat the way that you do?
Well, I eat the way that I do for health reasons and for satisfaction. So I choose foods that are satisfying to me, and sometimes the food that I feel are satisfying are not always the best foods. However, I do make a conscientious effort to choose foods that are healthy because I know how important it is to feed your body things that are good for you.
So how did you get to that point of choosing food that way?
The healthy choices came as a result of just knowing or learning that healthy choice, what we put into our bodies, are so important because it determines how our bodies react to the environment. So if I want a strong body, I need to put the foods inside of the body that are going to be conducive to having a strong body. And also just witnessing the people, some in my family, just people in the community. I see a lot of obesity and chronic diseases. And so my goal is to have not only life, but a quality life. And I know food can be medicine, good medicine, as a matter of fact.
Okay. So, given that philosophy, what place would you put food in your life? You know, how do you connect it with who you are, how you grew up, how you feed yourself or your family?
Okay. Well, food is a really, really big part of my life. It's a really important part of my life. As a matter of fact, sometimes I think I put more emphasis on food than I should put on food. And so for me, I love food. I love to eat. And when you are the kind of person who loves food and you love to eat, you have to be really conscientious of that because sometimes having that type of constitution, so to speak, we tend to overdo it. Mm-hmm. And so, food is a very big part of my life, and I know that I have to eat in order to live and function and all of those type of things. But on the other hand, sometimes I use food for comfort. So that's kind of it's a very important part of my day.
Okay. Cassandra, now who taught you how to cook, or how did you learn to cook?
I learned to cook watching my grandmothers.
Oh.
My mother was not a big cook. Most of the things we ate at my house were quick, fast, and instant. But both of my grandmothers they loved to cook, and they were very good cooks.
Okay.
And they were both so willing to allow me to just be in the kitchen with them. When I got married, and I would cook the way my grandmothers cooked. And my husband would always say, "Where's the measuring cup and where's the measuring spoon?" And I said, "No, my grandmothers didn't do that. I mean, they just poured it in and tasted it and all of those good things." So I learned to cook watching my grandmothers. I mean, literally, especially during the holidays, one of my grandmothers, whenever she was preparing for Thanksgiving or Christmas, I would always be over there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I learned how to cook cornbread dressing and all of that. And I don't ever remember her using a measuring cup, but I do remember her using cups.
Uh-huh.
Like little coffee cups or tea cups.
Right, whatever was at hand.
Right.
Yes.
And so that's how, so for me, I will say this, one of my grandmothers, she was a reader, but my other grandmother, she could not read.
Mm-hmm.
So I never saw her reading the back of a box or reading a recipe. But my grandmother, who was a reader, I never saw her with a recipe.
Mm-hmm.
So they just got in that kitchen and they did their own thing, and that was cooking for me.
Right. Wonderful. So what kind of family food traditions do you all have, or do you have?
Well, when I was younger, we had big family food traditions. We had when my grandmothers were a little, when they were younger, we would have the big get-together. So it would be my parents and aunts and uncles and cousins. And most of the times, my grandmothers did most of the cooking. So it wasn't like we brought anything over. It wasn't a potluck type of thing. They spent their time in the kitchen, all day, the day before. And so when everybody got there, it was just time to eat. Now, of course, one of my grandmothers has passed away, and the other one, she's still living. She's 95.
Wow.
So she doesn't cook now, but she misses it so much. And nobody can cook quite like she used to cook. So, she doesn't cook now, but she talks about how she misses the kind of food that she used to prepare. And we try to prepare foods, for her, and she'll eat it, but I know it's just not
the same.
Right?
Yes.
And in my home, I cook probably about 3 times a week. So I cook pretty big size meals, and we eat leftovers. My husband and I eat leftovers. My son. But anyway.
Children, yes.
Right. And holidays I cook. And as a matter of fact, I love to cook for Christmas and for Thanksgiving. And so the dinner is always, of course, for my nuclear family here, but my extended family, they all know that I'm going to cook for Christmas and I'm going to cook for Thanksgiving, and they can come by.
Okay.
So it's just like, I used to have a Thanksgiving meal, and everybody, my house would be the house for Thanksgiving, but now it's kind of like, we know she's cooking. So sometimes I'll cook up a lot and pack it up and package it up and take it to my grandmother's house, because she still has a lot of that traffic coming through her place, or people will just come by.
Okay. So we're in the Mississippi Delta, so I always have to ask people, do you grow any of your food?
Yes.
And what do you grow?
We have a garden on the side of the house there. We grow tomatoes, squash, green beans, watermelon, okra, and I think that's about it.
Okay. Have you started preparing your garden for this year, or what?
And we also grow greens.
Okay.
Mustard greens.
Okay.
My husband does all that cultivating and all. So prepping, yes.
Yes.
So he has not quite. I don't think he's out there now. So he's probably about to start making his way to the garden for the spring. But we planted greens last year, and of course we were picking them and eating them. But then what I like about the garden is that this garden always, we have volunteer things like we just got like 2 crops mustard greens. I mean, they just come back up. And then the watermelons last year, when we thought we were done with watermelons, and he went out there and they'd come back up.
So that's what you mean by volunteer?
Volunteer, like when you think you're done, then they come back up again.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so just leaving it alone, and he's, you know, sometimes he'll say, guess what's out there? And I say, what? And I remember one time he moved some dirt from the garden to the front of the house, and he said, guess what's out in front of the house? Cantaloupes. Because we grew cantaloupes, and so he had moved some of the dirt. I guess some of the seeds were
in the dirt. Yes.
So we were picking cantaloupes out of the flower bed because they started running in the flower bed.
Yes, I know. I've had a melon patch for a couple of years now, and I first started off doing cantaloupes. Because somebody said you can't do watermelons. And then the next year I was like, I don't know why they said that. So I tried it and it worked.
Yeah.
So I've been pretty successful with them. The only bad thing for me is the traveling that I have to do for work.
Right.
So I tell the guy who helps me with my yard to, whenever there's something there, to, you know, take it. And then I also, one of my neighbors, I tell him to take melons if they look ripe.
Right. We have a few trees out there. We're always trying to grow trees, and I think it's maybe like an apple and a peach.
Oh, wow.
There's I think that's a blackberry bush out there. So yeah, he's always, and then we have a place down south where there are quite a few trees that we've planted down there.
Okay, so are you a native to the Mississippi Delta?
I am.
Okay.
I am. I'm a native to the Mississippi Delta, but my husband is from Fayette, Mississippi.
Okay, okay. So Fayette is what? Is that more south of here?
It's more south, below Vicksburg, between Vicksburg and Natchez.
Oh, okay, okay. So what part of Mississippi is that considered to be?
I just call it South Mississippi.
So it's not the Delta, though.
It's not the Delta. It's like the hills.
Oh, okay, the hills. Okay, all right. Okay. So, is there anything else that you would like to share with us about your thoughts about food and culture before we close out?
I guess my thoughts would be that we should appreciate it. Mm-hmm. There's a lot to offer in terms of food. Of course, like I mentioned earlier, the health, the satisfaction, but food also brings people together. Even with growing things in the garden, sometimes we have an abundance of things, and it gives us an opportunity to share with our neighbors around here. So whenever there's an abundance of something, we give it away.
Okay.
So food brings people together. You know, when you grow food, there's an opportunity to go outside and connect with nature and all those kind of things. And so I guess one of my biggest concerns about food, my son and I, just last night, we were looking at, TV, the different commercials. We were paying attention to these commercials that were coming on, and everything was horrible. Every food that was being advertised, when I say horrible, I mean it tastes good, but nothing was good for you.
Right.
And I said, they're not saying, there is nothing good for you, he said, because nobody's going to buy that. That doesn't sell.
Right.
And so I think I wish people had more of an appreciation for food in its purest form.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cassandra. I appreciate you spending some time with me today.
All right. Thank you.
All right.